Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to this 6 p.m. primetime newscast over 4U television. But first, our top stories. We now take you to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where 19 people, including 3 UN peacekeepers, have died in a UN base that was bombed in Benin, east of the country. Onto food insecurity on the African continent, economic as well as trade experts have called on countries to be more collaborative in order to revive the agricultural sector and review the continent's prowess. We shall bring to you details in this newscast. Good evening once more, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to the 6 p.m. primetime newscast over 4U television. I am Jigs Nabisi for presentation. We begin this newscast with Guinea-Conakry, where Guineans on Thursday took to the streets in Conakry to protest against the military government as well as the way of handling its return to democracy. According to the protesters, one person was killed there in Guinea. Details in this newscast.
Protests against Guinea's military government and its way of handling the return to democracy have brought the capital to a standstill, with organizers saying one person was killed on Thursday, July 28. According to the National Front for Defense of the Constitution, one person died after being hit by a bullet in the Conakry suburb of Hamadale, while several others had been injured in clashes with police after plan for a peaceful rally was blocked. The FNDC is an influential political coalition that called for the demonstrators last week to condemn the military's unilateral management of a return to civilian rule after it seized power in 2021. The former ruling Rally for the Guinean People and the National Alliance for Change and Democracy and another coalition of parties and associations also called on their supporters to join the demonstrations. In spite of the allegations, authorities in the politically unstable country had previously banned the rally and are yet to confirm the death. The public prosecutor on Thursday ordered immediate legal action against the organizers. As it stands, the FNDC has accused the military leaders of systematically refusing to establish a credible dialogue to define the terms of the transition.
Top stories, we now talk food insecurity on the African continent, where economic as well as trade experts are calling on African countries to increase their trade with each other and revive their agricultural sector in order to increase or overcome food insecurity and slow economic growth exhibited by the war in Ukraine, which according to them should be used as a great opportunity to African states. The details are with you, Tekewana.
Crisis has led to some 3 million Africans to be food insecure even before the outbreak of the Russian-Ukraine war, which worsened the situation. Though most African states are blaming the current situation to the Russia-Ukraine crisis, there are some school of thought in the continent who believe African countries should be partly blamed for food insecurity with persistent drought in Eastern Africa, high food and energy prices. For sure, their opinion is no doubt correct. Africa is endowed with plenty of natural resources and enough land still to be exploited, yet very low intra-African trade in agriculture and agro-food. Some African governments before today have failed to unlock the full potential of agricultural sector, which of course placed us where we are today, in a continent where most governments prefer relaxing importation taxes of goods rather than boosting homemade products, fully implementing the African Continental Free Trade Accord, which economists say has the potential to bring some 3 million people out of poverty, is still begging to see the light of day.
There is a need for Africa to develop a form of autarky in the positive sense of being less dependent on the rest of the world for their own consumption and processing flows. So developing manufacturing, industrial processing and intra-African production. All this will only be a reality if the Pan-African Free Trade Area is put in place.
Perhaps their sluggish attitude towards embracing the policy is because they are at high risk of debt distress, which puts to question on what and how the huge sums of amount of money foreign institutions do grant African states yearly are used for when their educational systems, transport, health, and agricultural services are still to match international standards. Nevertheless, Many bookmakers insist this would have been a great opportunity for Africa to rise up to the game and prove to the Western world that without them, they could survive, but it is rather unfortunate such ambitions will have to wait for another generation. The Ukraine-Russia crisis should serve as an eye-opener to African states to return to their drawing board and correct the mistakes of yesterday, without which the same song of food insecurity shall linger for decades as Russia, US of A, and France scramble for potential allies in the African continent.
Away from food insecurity, we now take you to Angola, where a rare pink diamond weighing 34 grams have been found and is said to be the largest ever discovered in the last 300 years. The 170-carat stone has been named Lula Rose after the mine in Angola where it was found. Moni Manu tells us more.
This diamond is said to be the largest pink diamond mined since the 185-carat Diara Inor, which was cut from a larger stone and is now among the Iranian national jewels. The Lula Rose is a type 2A diamond, meaning it has few or no impurities.
Recovered a large pink diamond, one that has obviously not been seen in a number of centuries, we believe. We do mine a very unique and special resource that is famous in our industry for recovering some large stones. But when you recover a large stone with that is pink in color, obviously the excitement is certainly elevated.
It is the fifth largest diamond recovered from the Lulo mine, a joint venture between Australia's Lucapa Diamond Company and the Angolan government. This record continues to showcase Angola as an important player in the world stage.
I certainly believe it's going to be a very high value. But when you get to these rare articles, it's very difficult to put or understand what kind of premium might well be paid for this kind of stone.
Similar diamonds have been bought for tens of millions of dollars in the past, with one known as Pink Star selling at a Hong Kong auction for $71.2 million in 2017. According to a jewel specialist, it's impossible to speculate on how much Lula Rose will fetch until it is cut. Pink diamonds are extremely rare, but the same physical attributes that make the stone scarce also make them very tough and not easy to work into shapes. The largest known pink diamond is the Diara Inor, discovered in India, which experts believe was cut from an even larger stone. The largest rough diamond of any color ever recorded is the Cullinan diamond found in South Africa in 1905, weighing 3,107 carats, more than half a kilogram.
In Senegal, 48 hours to the legislative election slated for Sunday, July 31st, the Senegalese people are following a campaign marked by an unprecedented situation. So far, there are 8 coalitions vying for the 165 seats. Fortso recounts their challenges.
Friday, July 29, 2022, the last day of campaigning before the legislative election on Sunday, July 31. Preparations are well on the way. A total of 8 lists are in competition for 165 seats at stake. The majority hopes to maintain an obvious majority in the assembly, while the main opposition forces aim to impose cohabitation on President Macky Sall. But the main issues here is that of participation, because only 7 million Senegalese out of the nearly 18 million in the country are called to the polls for a ballot with test value before the presidential election of February 2024. In the event of victory, the opposition could impose cohabitation on President Macky Sall and curb the intentions it attributes to him of serving a third term. President Sall, elected in 2012 for 7 years and re-elected in 2019 for 5 years, remained uncertain about his intentions in 2024. It should be noted that the single-run legislative election aims to renew for 5 years the 165 seats at the unicameral parliament, largely controlled by the presidential camp. In 2017, the participation rate in the legislative election was 54%.
Let's now talk climate change on the African continent, where in preparations for the United Nations Climate Summit slated in August, come November, African nations have begun climate talks in Maputo to identify the priorities and possible common ground. The details are in the following report.
In preparations for the United Nations Climate Summit, acronym as COP27, to take place in Egypt come November 2022, African nations kick-started climate talks in the Mozambican capital Maputo to identify their priorities and come up with a possible common position. The meeting in Maputo is a joint collaboration of the United Nations, African Union, African Development Bank, the Civil Society Organization, as well as the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. The talks come as the continent has been struggling with devastating cyclones in the south and now faces an exacerbated drought cases across the eastern horn of Africa.
It is incumbent upon us in these uncertain times to act swiftly to ensure that climate action remains at the top of the international agenda, and that current state of affairs is not taken as a pretext to backtrack or renege on previous commitments, especially those related to supporting developing countries.
Africa, the continent of 1.2 billion people, which represents 17% of the world's population, contributes to less than 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions, but suffers mightily from extreme weather events, which scientists have warned could become more frequent due to climate change. According to Arnav Ichava, a Swedish diplomat speaking at the meeting, the continent has to make adapting to climate change a priority. The UN estimates that African nations already spend between 2% and 9% of their national income on natural disasters linked to climate change. The forum will equally focus on using indigenous knowledge and land practices for conservation and adaptation efforts rather than relying on external help. Jean-Paul Adam, head of the climate at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, stated. However, the talks include policymakers, regional institutions, as well as grassroots activists and representatives from private sectors.
We are now in sub-Saharan Africa with an estimated length of 4,000 kilometers. The Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline project will bring Nigerian gas to Europe, where several countries are seeking to reduce their dependence on Russia deliveries. Fortso has the remainder of that story.
The Algerian, Nigerian and Niger energy ministers signed Thursday, July 28, 2022, a memorandum of understanding for realization of TSGP Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline project, a project which, according to the official agency of the Algerian Press Service, will allow Nigerian gas to be transported to Europe. The TSGP should eventually transport billions of cubic meters of Nigerian gas to Algeria via Niger. Algeria retained be able to send Nigerian gas to European Union countries via Transmed, which links the country to Italy via Tunisia, and LNG liquefied natural gas transported by LNG tankers. It should be remembered, however, that the Nord Stream gas pipeline linking Russia to Germany has restarted after 10 days of maintenance. And during the tripartite ministerial meeting between Algeria, Niger and Nigeria on Thursday in Algiers, the Algerian Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohamed Akka, and his counterparts from Nigeria, Timipre Silva, and Niger, Mohamed Sani Mahamadou, signed the Memorandum of Understanding after discussing aspects of the project, including its progress. For the moment, no indication has been given on its complete date. When launched in 2009, the investment cost at the TSGP was estimated at $10 billion. With a length of 4,128 kilometers, including 1,037 kilometers in Nigerian territory, 841 kilometers in Niger, and 2,310 kilometers in Algeria, this gas pipeline will also supply the countries of the Sahel.
Thank you, Fortso, for that report. To wrap up this newscast, we now talk the Democratic Republic of Congo, where 19 people, including 3 UN peacekeepers, have died in a UN base that was petrol-bombed in Beni, the east of the country, amidst worsening protests against the United Nations. Demonstrators have accused the United Nations of not protecting the civilians, as you tell us, Moni Manu.
After the bombing of the UN base in Beni, 2 other peacekeeping bases were targeted on Thursday. Casualty figures were not immediately clear, but reports say at least 19 people, including 3 UN peacekeepers, 1 from Morocco and 2 international policemen from India serving with the UN peacekeeping force, were slain, and a policeman from Egypt were injured at the UN base in Butembo in North Kivu province.
Hundreds of assailants have again attacked our bases in Goma as well as other parts of North Kivu province, fueled by hostile remarks and threats made by individuals and groups against the UN, particularly on social media. Mobs are throwing stones and petrol bombs, breaking into bases, looting and vandalizing, and setting facilities on fire. The situation is very volatile, and reinforcements are being mobilized. Our quick reaction forces are on high alert and have been advised to exercise maximum restraint, using tear gas to disperse protesters and only firing warning shots when UN personnel or property are under attack.
Demonstrators have been accusing the UN of not protecting civilians against armed groups operating in the east. The UN said Tuesday that violent attackers snatched weapons from the Congolese police and fired on UN personnel. According to UN spokesman, the protesters have been joined by Mai Mai militia groups formed ostensibly to protect villagers.
As far as I'm aware, all peacekeepers have been instructed to exercise the utmost restraint. As I believe we reported yesterday, when there were similar incidents at our bases, they were able to use tear gas and to fire into the air. But obviously, the situation on the ground has changed as some of these compounds have been breached. I don't know whether that materially changed the response.
More than 100 different armed groups operate in the east, including the Allied Democratic Front that is affiliated to the Islamic State group. A recent wave of attacks has killed hundreds and displaced tens of thousands. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned the violence targeting multiple UN bases across North Kivu since Monday.
Ladies and gentlemen, the report on the Democratic Republic of Congo puts a stop to the 6 p.m. primetime newscast over 4U television. I have been Jakes Nabuse for presentation. As you follow our programs, God bless Africa.
Votre chaîne de télévision panafricaine 4U Télévision, désormais dans vos ménages, via le satellite Eutelsat.